There are moments in life when everything feels like it's falling apart. Relationships fracture, dreams dry up, our purpose seems lost in the fog of daily survival. In those moments, silence can feel louder than words, and the absence of clarity is almost unbearable. Yet it's precisely in those moments when a whisper breaks through. Begin again, not as a suggestion, not as a vague hope, but as a divine invitation, God's personal call for you to rise, to rebuild, and to be renewed. This call is not just for the broken, the lost, or the wayward. It is for you exactly where you are, regardless of what lies behind you. The most powerful truth you need to hear today is this: God is not finished with you. His plan for your life did not expire with your last mistake. His mercy is not rationed. His purpose is not derailed by your detours. What makes this message so urgent is that many people believe they've already missed their chance. They think they're too old, too far gone, too damaged to start again. But the truth is that God never issues a one-time calling. He is the author of new beginnings. Just as the seasons change, just as the morning breaks through the night, your life too can be restored. And that restoration doesn't come from self-help or motivational slogans. It comes from a direct encounter with grace, with love, with God. And here is the most compelling part of this truth, the part that cuts through all hesitation. You were never meant to fix yourself alone. God's call to begin again is not a demand. It's an invitation to walk with Him while He does the work within you. It's a gentle, persistent urging that says, "Let me rebuild what you've broken. Let me renew what time and pain have withered." Perhaps the most powerful image you'll carry from this message is this: God is the master sculptor. When your life looks like shattered stone, He doesn't sweep it away in disappointment. He kneels beside it, runs His hands through the dust, and begins the quiet work of shaping beauty from the wreckage. He doesn't discard broken people. He redeems them. This isn't just a sermon, it's a lifeline, a reminder, a declaration. You can begin again, and not just once, but as many times as needed. Every sunrise is a promise. Every breath is a gift. Every moment is a chance to say yes to the God who still believes in you, even when you don't believe in yourself. So, if you've ever wondered whether your story is over, if you've ever believed that your failure was final, if you've ever sat in the ruins of your past thinking nothing new could ever grow there, this message is for you. God is calling, not to condemn, but to restore, and He is calling you to begin again. You're not too late. You're right on time. You were never meant to fix yourself alone. God's call to begin again is not a demand. It's an invitation to walk with Him while He does the work within you. It's a gentle, persistent urging that says, "Let me rebuild what you've broken. Let me renew what time and pain have withered." Think of the places in your life where you've decided nothing new can grow. Maybe it's the pain of divorce, the scars of addiction, the quiet suffering of regret. Now hear this: those ruins are the exact place where God plants His greatest miracles. He doesn't wait for you to clean up before He enters in. He comes into the wreckage. He steps into the storm, and He speaks life again. God is not afraid of your past. He's not disappointed by how far you've wandered, nor surprised by your mistakes. In fact, He already knew you would need a second chance, even a 1,000th chance, and He built that grace into the very design of your life. That's the kind of Father He is. That's the kind of love He gives. Infinite, patient, relentless. But here's the part many people miss. When God calls you to begin again, He's not just inviting you into recovery. He's calling you into purpose. You weren't created to merely survive. You were made to shine, to build, to love deeply, to live with courage and conviction. The weight of failure may press against your spirit, but God is offering something greater: resurrection. And resurrection doesn't happen in the absence of death. It happens in the middle of it. It begins when we stop running, stop hiding, and say, "God, I'm ready, begin again with me." You might still feel unqualified. You might look at your hands and see nothing but what you've lost. But in the eyes of God, you are not defined by what you've done. You are defined by what He can do through you. You don't need to have all the answers. You just need to say yes. Yes to the healing. Yes to the growth. Yes to the unknown future God is writing. Because the same God who called light out of darkness can call purpose out of your pain. And that's the real miracle. Not that God forgives you, though He does, but that He believes in you enough to call you forward, not just away from your past, but into a future only He can see, a future where your wounds become testimonies, where your trials become wisdom, where your ruins become altars of gratitude. Don't let shame convince you that it's too late. Don't let fear chain you to a broken identity. You are not your worst moment. You are not your silent battles. You are not the sum of your failures. You are a child of God, and He is calling you now, not when you're ready, now, just as you are. So stand up, wipe the dust off, step out in faith. The past may whisper your disqualification, but the voice of God roars with destiny. Begin again. You've got breath in your lungs for a reason. You've got a heartbeat because your story isn't over. And you've got a God who's already walking ahead of you, calling you forward. When God moves in your life, He does not simply sweep away the broken pieces to make room for something new. That is a human way of thinking. Disposable, quick, impatient. But God is not in the business of replacing what's broken with something artificial or temporary. He is in the business of redemption, and redemption is far more powerful than replacement. Redemption means He takes what is shattered, what seems irredeemable, and through His grace refashions it into something even more glorious than before. You see, many of us live with the idea that when we fall short, when we sin, or when we mess up our lives, God discards what we once had. We think He might give us a second chance, but not with what we lost. Maybe we believe He'll offer a new path, but only after erasing the former one entirely, like a frustrated artist scrapping a ruined sketch. But that is not how divine love works. God is not like us. He is patient, merciful, and absolutely committed to our restoration. He does not throw away the clay. He reshapes it, and what He creates is not a downgrade. It's refined, it's stronger, it's wiser, and it carries the weight of transformation. There's a fundamental difference between something being restored and something being replaced. Replacement suggests that the original was no longer useful, that it served its time and is now obsolete. Restoration, however, is an act of deep love. It is the decision to see value in what appears ruined, to believe that the original still holds beauty, and to invest time and care in bringing it back to life. When God redeems, He does not look at your past and grimace. He doesn't view your mistakes as liabilities. In fact, those very failures become the setting for His glory. He doesn't remove your history. He rewrites it with grace. Every painful chapter, every dark valley, every wrong turn, it all becomes part of the testimony. Not one moment is wasted. God doesn't redeem by erasing your story. He redeems by transforming it. You may think your marriage is too broken to mend, or your reputation too damaged to repair. Maybe you've made decisions that led you far away from the person you once wanted to be. But here is the miracle of redemption. God can take the very area of your greatest failure and turn it into the foundation of your greatest calling. Not by replacing who you were, but by redeeming you from the inside out. Think of how many times in Scripture God used the unlikeliest, most broken people, not in spite of their flaws, but through them. David was not replaced after his sin with Bathsheba. He was redeemed. His heart was broken in repentance, and God used that experience to shape him into a man after his own heart. Peter denied Christ 3 times, yet he wasn't discarded. Jesus didn't say, "You had your chance." No, he restored Peter on a beach with a breakfast fire, asking not for an explanation, but for love. And Peter went on to become a cornerstone of the early church. This is God's pattern. He is not seeking to erase your identity. He wants to resurrect it, to bring life back into the person you were meant to become. He wants to show the world what he can do, not with perfect people, but with wounded, real people who are willing to say yes to him again. There's something sacred about scars. We often try to hide them, cover them up, pretend they aren't there. But God sees scars as signs of healing, of survival, of grace. Redemption is not a magic trick that makes everything look untouched. It is a transformation that makes your past part of the power. Your wounds, when placed in God's hands, become wells of compassion, empathy, wisdom, and strength. People don't need to see a life that's never known pain. They need to see someone who walked through fire and came out refined. We live in a world that glorifies replacements, new jobs, new relationships, new paths that promise to leave the past behind. But God isn't calling you to forget your story. He's calling you to bring it to him so he can redeem it. He doesn't shame you for the ashes. He trades beauty for them. That's the exchange he offers. Not dismissal, not punishment, but healing. And here's what's truly profound. When God redeems something in you, it doesn't just affect your life. It spills into the lives of those around you. Redeemed people become conduits of hope. When others see that God met you in your deepest mess and raised you from it, they begin to believe he can do the same for them. Your restoration becomes a ripple of grace that reaches far beyond you. What you thought disqualified you is actually the doorway through which others will find their way back to faith, to love, and to purpose. Redemption also means that God doesn't waste time. Every season you thought was pointless, every year lost to depression, addiction, confusion, or pain, is gathered in his hands and repurposed. It may not make sense to you right now, but in his divine perspective, nothing is lost. He is the Redeemer of time, the healer of timelines. He restores not just your heart, but also your hope in the process. So when you feel like you've blown it beyond repair, when you believe you need to start over completely, pause and ask yourself, is God really asking me to start from scratch? Or is he asking me to give him my broken pieces so he can make something greater? Because often, what we think needs to be thrown away is actually the raw material for the most beautiful masterpiece. God is calling you to begin again, yes, but not as someone else, not in someone else's story. He is calling you to begin again as you are, with all that you carry, all that you've survived, all that you regret. You are not being replaced, you are being redeemed, and if you can believe that even just a little, you will begin to see your life differently. You'll begin to welcome the process of healing instead of fearing the shame of your past. You'll begin to walk with a new confidence, not because you're perfect, but because you are redeemed. So today, don't run from your ruins. Bring them to the Redeemer. Let him write a new chapter, not by erasing what came before, but by making it part of the testimony that will change not just your life, but the lives of everyone your story touches. Grace is not a soft word. It is not passive, nor is it weak. Grace is a force, gentle, yes, but powerful enough to rewrite lives, shift destinies, and silence the loudest voice of shame. The most dangerous lie people believe is that their past has rendered them unusable, unworthy, or beyond reach. But that lie shrivels under the truth of grace. And the truth is this: grace is always greater than your history, not just in theory, not just for the righteous, but for you, exactly as you are, no matter how far you've fallen or how long you've been gone. There is a common belief, quietly held by many, that you must clean yourself up before approaching God, that until you've fixed your behavior or outgrown your shame, you're not eligible to receive anything from Him, certainly not love, certainly not purpose. This is a tragic misunderstanding of grace. Grace does not wait for perfection. It enters into your mess while it's still messy. It kneels down in the dirt of your failures and speaks life into dead places. You cannot out-sin grace. You cannot outrun it, out-stumble it, or out-fail it. Grace does not measure your worth by your record. It measures your worth by your relationship to the one who gives it freely. And that one does not give grace begrudgingly or sparingly. He gives it lavishly, unconditionally, and relentlessly. So many people define themselves by what they've done. They carry labels like addict, failure, divorced, unlovable, damaged. They rehearse their regrets like mantras and let their worst moments set the tone for every decision that follows. But grace comes to strip those false identities away and restore the original truth. You are still chosen. You are still called. You are still seen, not through the lens of your mistakes, but through the eyes of mercy. That is the miracle of grace. It doesn't just forgive you, it redefines you. Maybe you've lived for years with the burden of something you wish you could undo. Maybe it's a lie you told that changed everything. Maybe it's a decision you made in desperation. Maybe it's a season of life you spent drifting, compromising, hiding from who you knew you were meant to be. And maybe that guilt still haunts you, not always loud, but always there, like a shadow on the edge of your happiness. But grace doesn't shrink in the face of guilt. It overcomes it. Grace says, yes, that happened. But that's not where the story ends. Grace gives you permission to stop punishing yourself, to stop disqualifying yourself, to stop assuming God's silence is a sign of His absence. Sometimes the silence is simply a space where grace is waiting to be believed. There's something dangerous and holy about accepting grace. It humbles you. It reminds you that you're not the hero of your own story. You didn't earn your redemption. You didn't manufacture your second chance. It was given to you, and it came at a cost. That's the weight grace carries. It's free to you, but it cost everything to the one who gives it, and that cost proves your worth. Many people resist grace because they think they have to maintain an image of strength. They're afraid to admit how much they need it. But grace isn't for the strong who pretend they don't bleed. Grace is for the real, the cracked, the weary, the ones who have tried and failed and don't know how to start over. Grace meets them in that low place and whispers, "You don't have to climb your way back. I'll meet you where you are. Your past is not a prison unless you choose to stay there. Grace is the key in the lock. But it's you who must decide to walk out of the cell. You must choose to believe that you're not disqualified by what you've done, but requalified by what Christ has done for you. You must choose to accept that God sees your past completely and still chooses to use you anyway, not reluctantly but joyfully. Think about that. God doesn't work around your history, He works through it. Every pain you've endured, every wrong step, every regret, it all becomes part of the story He is redeeming. Nothing is wasted. Nothing is beyond repair. Grace not only gives you a future, but it gives new meaning to your past. What once shamed you can become the very testimony that sets someone else free. You don't have to understand grace fully to receive it. You don't have to feel it emotionally every moment of every day. What matters is whether you believe it enough to live like it's true, to stop punishing yourself for what grace already covered, to stop defining yourself by what grace has already buried, to begin again, not by pretending your past didn't happen, but by proclaiming that it no longer defines you. People will try to remind you of who you used to be. They'll say things like, "I remember what you did," or "You haven't changed." Let them talk. You don't answer to them. You answer to the one who calls you beloved. You walk in the grace that says, "Yes, I did those things, but that's not who I am anymore. I am redeemed. I am restored. I am living under grace now." And when that grace takes root in you, it changes how you see everything. It changes how you view others, no longer through judgment, but with compassion. It changes how you handle failure, not with despair, but with trust. It changes how you live, not by fear of falling, but by the joy of being free. Grace doesn't promise you won't fall again, but it promises you won't fall alone. Grace says, "When you stumble, I will catch you. When you forget who you are, I will remind you. When you want to give up, I will carry you." It's not just a cushion for mistakes. It's fuel for transformation. And perhaps most importantly, grace is not a one-time gift. It's new every morning. Every time you wake up, grace is waiting, not based on your performance the day before, not withdrawn because you didn't do enough. Always fresh, always full, always more than enough. If your past still speaks loudly, let grace speak louder. If shame still echoes, let grace drown it out. And if fear tells you that it's too late, let grace answer with this truth: it's not too late. You're not too far, and this story isn't over. Grace is waiting to meet you in the place you stopped believing you could begin again. And it is stronger than your guilt, greater than your history, and ready, right now, to lift you into the life you were always meant to live. You don't have to fix everything to come back. You just have to come back. Grace will take care of the rest. The world has a clock, a ticking, relentless clock that tells you you're behind. That if you didn't start young, you've missed it. That if you've fallen behind, you're never catching up. That the time for change, for growth, for purpose, it was yesterday. This mindset is everywhere. It's in the comparison, in the self-doubt, in the silence when you look at your own life and wonder what happened. The tragedy is not that we fall for this lie, it's that we let it stop us. But God's timing isn't set to the rhythms of culture. It isn't dictated by your age, your resume, your mistakes, or your surroundings. In God's divine plan, you're not too late. You're right on time. We tend to think in straight lines, progression, steps, one thing leading neatly into another. But life is not that tidy. It's winding, unpredictable, full of detours and delays. You may look around and see everyone moving forward while you feel stuck in reverse. You may see people achieving things you thought you'd have by now. Marriages, careers, families, platforms, peace. And it's easy to believe that because you're not there, you've missed your moment. But in truth, many of the greatest breakthroughs come not from those who arrived early, but from those who persisted even when it looked like the door was closed. Delay is not denial. God does not waste time, even when it feels like you are. What looks like a standstill to you is often a season of preparation to Him. He's not just interested in you arriving somewhere.